So I have the distinct pleasure of giving you the ACOEM updates. And I'll try to be apolitical as I can today, given the political climate. Full transparency, these slides are prepared by our ACOEM staff. Erin, as you know, Erin has left, but Adam's taking over in her role. Let me first of all congratulate you on the conference, however. Tremendous so far. I was fortunate to be part of the group yesterday with the Baltimore tour, of the Museum of Industry in Baltimore. So that was tremendous, and congratulations to all the chairs and the planning committee. So I'll give you a little bit about what's been going on at ACOEM. I'm sure you all are aware of what's happening, but a couple of quick things. I'll talk about strategic planning. As a lot of you know, last year was a strategic planning year. Dr. Martin had that distinct luxury of doing that. So we had a strategic plan that was put in place. A couple of changes. There was a moratorium on new presidential task forces for good reason. I was told, new staffing, Craig was relatively new. Instead of having additional task forces to focus on, he wanted a chance to get to know the staff, see the times they're spending on different projects, so you could better quantify future projects. So while there were no new presidential task forces, I was able to carry over from Dr. Saido's president some important ones like the pipeline and environment. So those are the areas of focus. And my theme, as you all know, is sustainability this year, and sustainability for three prongs essentially. So the specialty, the college, and the environment. So I wanted to bring that piece in, as I'm sure you all are aware. We just got the environmental medicine accreditation for the ACGME, and ABPM followed suit. So we do want to make some kind of an entrance onto that global stage for sure. I will talk about some of the areas that I am focusing on, and you'll see your ACOEM leaders. I was very pleasantly surprised the representative from Markham. I think about 5 of our board members are from Markham. So Markham's doing a little bit of a board takeover there. And then also we're going to brag a little bit about our ACOEM initiatives that we're rather proud of, or CMSS grant, which some of you may already be aware of. I met Dr. Sari. He was one of the ones on the committee working with us, as well as the Medical Center Health folks, Dr. Berman. So we very contributed a lot to those position statements and so on. Talk a little bit about going to explore our upcoming education and various calls to action. So if there's one thing that I could say, it would be unity around our mission and vision, right? We do have to find a path forward. We have to think about our common and shared interests, vision, and think about the patients we care for, the communities, the populations. So the vision from your strategic planning committee, and those were your thought leaders. It wasn't just the board was included, but we invited several of the thought leaders from the college to participate in this particular endeavor. So our vision: healthy workers, safe workplaces, thriving environments. I think we would do well to certainly unite around this vision, as we do have a tremendous task ahead of us to move the vision forward. And our mission, of course, to advance the specialty and promote optimal health and safety of workers, workplaces, environments. I don't know how many of you actually know to remember that. Of course, mission and vision statements are supposed to be short, catchy, sweet, the shortest sound bites as possible, but that's what they are. So our organizational values are, of course, aspirational, and of course, number one on the list is collaboration, and we do have to think about how we can collaborate as a specialty. There are different members of our team. Right now, we have an OEM professional board task force. It was so important, it was elevated to the level of the board task force, not just the presidential task force that's being chaired by Jeff Hess. The board has some input in terms of recommendations and what to accomplish. We want to look at collaborative practices. It's going to be way outside of scope because we can't really touch scope. Most of you know that. That's a state level issue, but we will try to determine what collaborative practices, what those look like, the different members of the team, and we're trying to make it more inclusive. So we think about physicians, APPs, advanced practice providers, but also industrial hygienists, other members of the OEM professional team will be included. So they're still gathering momentum. I have to be honest that they're probably going to meet later this year or early next year, and recommendations for the board. But I just want to highlight that we should recognize and respect everyone's unique value and expertise, and that's what we're trying to sort out how best to contribute. As you know, the various disciplines of medicine is all based on teamwork, even at the training level at this point. So we have to sort of figure out how to move forward, find a path forward, among ourselves. And then, of course, the second one is inclusion. I won't read them all, because you can see them there on the slide, but inclusion is the second one, and we are the home for all OEM professionals. And by the way, that was a unanimous vote. And of course, there's some conversations now about, exactly what does that mean? So there's talk about whether we should have a strategic planning, I guess, part 2 to clarify exactly what that means. And that we decided has to be in person, so we're thinking, to have those conversations at roundtable, perhaps in the winter, to clarify exactly what that means for you, so it's clearer for you, certainly. And I won't read all these to you, or organizational goals and strategies. I'd like to leave some for Craig. Craig is, of course, our CEO, those who do not know Craig. And I did notice very distinctly that there are no P&L slides in this talk. So I was going to skip over that. But somebody asked about finances yesterday, so I feel I have to mention that a bit. So we're doing a lot better. Craig has made a huge impact in this particular sphere. One of the things that coincided with Craig's arrival was the change of our accounting system, which was huge because it actually gave us a lot more visibility and transparency in our expenses. And one of the first projects that Craig took on was to dive deep and try to eliminate as much redundancy and inefficiencies as possible. He's definitely saved on the order of tens of thousands of dollars in that regard alone. I think that's maxed out at this point, though. And we still have to get back to our typical revenue conversations. A lot of you may know over the last 10 to 15 years, we've relied very heavily on our investments. I don't think that's really news to anyone. So we do have to focus on investments and with the market volatility. There has been some market recovery, as you know, since the pandemic and the like, when we really got hit super hard with that. There were a lot of what I like to call in my own household one-time expenses. We had quite a number of those as well, as you can imagine. But the other thing I'll point out is we took out a line of credit, which it sounds very scary, but it's not. With organizations of our size, it's not very unusual. And the reason for that is it made a lot of sense to me. Instead of pulling from our investments, particularly the volatile market, under a market downturn, where you can lose a lot more than you perhaps planned, you take out a line of credit to help get us through the rough months, the operationally, and then you pay that back. One good news on that front also, we tapped into our credit line last year as early as July, and this year we tapped into it in September. So that was a little win. And then of course, Craig's pretty good at paying that back around the January, February timeframe. So we feel good about that. And in terms of the interest rates, they've been 5 to 6%, which we were told that those are pretty reasonable interest rates. So there's a bit of we're definitely making some strides. Right now, we have, in terms of reserves, about 6 months of reserves, which is not the best where we've been, but that's what it is. Just to get back to organizational goals and strategies, to talk about the slides that we have. So we want to certainly ensure that we're meeting our goals. I envision ACOEM and OEM is so intricately linked. I mean, it's like one and the same in my head. So we do have to make sure that we're working together. ACOEM has to support the specialty for sure, and we do want to broaden the reach of our core competency model and align ACOEM's education and resources accordingly. And we want to make sure that we're innovating. One thing that we talk about. I'm sorry. Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. So when I just came on the board, they wanted to make sure we had younger, the newer generation. I was supposed to represent the Gen Xer. I am a Gen Xer. Most people think that I'm a millennial, but that's okay. And I identify more with boomers, even more so probably because I trained in internal medicine. So I'm one of these that kind of crosses generations. But so we wanted to attract the newer generations in medicine for obvious reasons, because that's where we're going to get our next generation of leaders. But we want to hear from that generation. We know that generation has unique needs in terms of how we educate them. And that's important to pay attention to. So that's very important for us to engage the next generation of physicians, providers, of leaders. So we do want to ensure we're innovating, prioritizing our digital delivery, and every single component meeting. I hear about the website. Yes, I know about the website. I always bring that back to Craig, by the way. And so I do bring any feedback that I get from you guys back to our leadership for sure. And then reimagine our benefits portfolio. So in the old days, I was one of the old-fashioned ones. you were told to join organizations and stay with them, get engaged, get involved in the leadership. So that was sort of ingrained in me, even from internal medicine. But we do have to make an effort to brand ourselves, to sell ourselves. It's like everything else. It's, marketing, branding. So we do have that challenge to ensure that we remain attractive to the next generation. And then we'll talk a bit about ongoing strength and capabilities of ACOEM to serve the profession. Again, ACOEM serves us. We have to ensure that we're continuing to do that in a competitive fashion. This is really Craig's area, but looking at pricing sensitivities, and that's a very sensitive area. But they continue to look at the technological capabilities. The governance thing, I was very surprised, it was very well received. As you know, there's been a lot of restructuring of the governance for good reason. We have way too many governmental entities for an organization of our size. So that became very clear when we did the benchmarking. So there's been a lot of cutting, making things more efficient, cutting back on redundancies. But I thought we'd get more, not more, but that's been pretty well received so far from what I could see. And then, of course, we have to think about the business model to ensure long-term success. I love the words that Craig used. The runway could be much shorter than you imagine. So we do have to start focusing on these things. And then, of course, the very controversial, we're the trusted home and champion for all professionals who practice OEM, and we need to define and promote the specialty, convey value, impact, learn, and work together, and that will require some culture shift from all of us, each and every one of us. Unity implies that it doesn't mean a lack of disagreement or dissension or even differences in opinions, but we do have to come together as a whole and unite around our shared mission, vision, values, and interests. And I think we can do that. I have a lot of confidence in this group. So JEDI is still a relatively fledgling committee. Kudos to those who sort of led the charge with this. This one is a very challenging area, but very important and becoming more and more so. And I won't read all these to you, but we did do a pretty good job of highlighting, areas of cultural events of cultural significance. We want to ensure that we have tools for our members to provide culturally competent care, and we want to position our physicians, our providers, and ACOEM to be leaders in advancing JEDI research and education. And so this is where I get to, take a little credit and brag a little bit. So these are my areas of presidential focus. As I mentioned, my big theme this year is sustainability, and three prongs. So it's sustainability of the specialty first and foremost, of the college, and of the environment. And so I stole a little bit from Dr. Sayo's presidency. And full transparency, we were kind of thinking the presidential year goes so fast. I'm already 6 months in, not that I'm counting, but the presidential year goes super fast. We're thinking we probably should have more of where you have the vice president, the president-elect, and the president, create the vision so you have a longer term to really get things done. Because as soon as one presidency is over, the other comes in and kind of starts over. So we're thinking more of a continuity in that regard. That may take a little time, but we're kind of experimenting with this a little bit too. So that kind of all worked out. But yeah, looking at the OEM professional team, as we mentioned, to sort of clarify the various roles and how we're going to work together and collaborate. And then financial stability of the college. It's something we have to continue to look for. New revenue streams. That's going to be ongoing. So if you have any bright ideas for the next big thing at ACOEM, we'd really love to hear about it. And then the environmental sustainability, and we really should make an impact. We should not forget the E in both OEM and in ACOEM, and we should ensure that we are having a conversation. I was recently I was brought onto the National Commission on Climate and Workforce Health, and at the table was NIOSH, OSHA, CDC. So we were just arriving at that very important table, having important conversations about how businesses should be incentivized to protect their workers, protect their business, in light of climate change and the various climate impacts that we're seeing. So that was pretty exciting for me to be a part of that. So of course, this is your ACOEM board. I recognize the Marco members on there, of course, yours truly. We have also Dr. Al Mirza, Dr. Rachel Labu, I saw who's online, Dr. Ishmael Nabil, and of course, Maria Hamzi. So that's like a quarter of the board there. So way to go, Marco, for your mentoring the next generation of leaders for the college as well. And that's your executive committee and your board of directors. So the ACOEM staff, a lot of you may not know, there are some new faces. I think most of you know Craig Sandel, your CEO, and of course Ginny Costello works closely with the component activities, very engaging herself. Julie Ording Director of Scientific Affairs. You may not know the very new Allison Fitch Markham. She's the Director of Marketing and Communications, and we're very excited to hear from Allison. We want to hear her ideas to help us with our branding, both for the specialty and for the college. And then, of course, Michelle Suarez, still relatively new, I think this is perhaps her second, third year, and she's our Director of Education and Experience, and very prominent in her role in AOHC planning, and she does all the heavy lift with that, I'm sure. Another new member you may not be aware of, Nikki Hoffman, right there, Dead Center. She's our Associate Director of Education. She's helping us with OEM Essentials and other of our various products. And her role, of course, I know she's working on, of course, Janet Clapp, our Senior Manager of Partnerships, and Charlie Peckman, Coordinator of Marketing and Communications. And then I also highlight Adam, who's our Manager of Operations and Governance, and he's doing a lot of what Erin was to do for us in terms of at the board level of planning and so on. So a couple of bragging rights in a few minutes there. So this is one area that we're very pleased. This is a multi-million-dollar grant. It sounds great. We don't get all that money. We do disperse a lot of funds, but we do get some support towards paying salaries. So this is an important one. So we were selected as one of 7 partners. And one has since dropped out with the Society of Nephrology, so we're now part of 6, I guess. And we continue to do work on that to ensure that we're increasing or work on vaccination rates, COVID, flu, and so on. And I do get a lot of support from some of you in this very room. We have Amy, so Dr. Sorry, he's helped us with some of the writing that goes into that. I won't read these all, but we're focusing on our vaccine assessment and delivery process. We're trying to deal with challenges and barriers to vaccine hesitancy. So we're trying to attack those. And those are some of the health system and partners that are involved. And you see some of your colleagues there, Zeke McKinney, Marcia Istakari, Raj Das, and so on. So we have a vaccine-specific website, so definitely look at that. We have language in there for COVID, for flu, and we keep that as updated as possible. We just updated that. I know Dr. Berman input, and so that site was recently updated. So a lot of you know Pat, probably remember Pat O'Connor. I think he actually presented at Johns Hopkins when Markham was at Johns Hopkins years ago. He was our keynote, and also was our advocacy representative, and he's retired, as many of you know. So we do have a new kid on the block, Dane Farrell, and he's with Advocacy Initiatives. Of course, Advocacy Initiatives is that's the group that is our vendor, so to speak. But Dane has been working with COLA very closely, and there's been a lot of activity. We saw the heat activity, proposal from OSHA that's coming, that's making some headway there over the summer. And also the very non-controversial proposed rescheduling of marijuana from Schedule 1 to 3. That was quite a struggle. Natalie Hartenbaum was leading that, and that was the original marijuana task force. We gathered to make comments for this. And then I'll just highlight the NIOSH coalition support for funding that's going to help our pipeline. And then in terms of our recent guidance and position papers, I've highlighted a few for you. The role and value of a corporate medical director, long COVID, and then of course best practices in documenting and coding high value care workers' compensation encounters by yours truly, your own Dr. Mary Florence. So congratulations on that. And then OEM Explore is a geographic-based career platform. I haven't used it myself, I'll be transparent, but I've heard good things about it, that it's certainly incorporating AI, which is sort of the future. So if you're at that place in your career where you need that support, I say absolutely check it out. And in terms of education, of course, we just missed the commercial driver medical examiner course, which was live on site at ACOEM headquarters. And then, of course, upcoming, not too late for you, pre-register for upcoming ACOEM Virtual Fall Summit, November 6th and 8th. And this is like the old SOTAC. We wanted to bring the SOTAC back with some of the conversations at the board. You guys remember that COVID year where we got hammered clearly, it was an in-person conference, we had to go virtual. That fall, we also had a virtual, COVID-focused conference, and so we sort of kept that momentum going with the virtual fall summit. The topics were really cutting edge: AI, climate change, the things that's going to be changing our futures and our landscape, certainly. MRO course is also coming up, and that's on site at headquarters. I'm sure you all know there are also some online options for CDME as well as for MRO. And then we do have on-demand and OEM fundamentals. I know Maria Alonso was very instrumental in that. And of course, we're trying to get that OEM essentials back up. Nikki's back up and running, where Nikki's helping us to get that, on going again. And then, of course, definitely connect with us, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You can tell I have teenagers. These are definitely advancing. So ACOEM quarterly, that's going virtual, by the way. It's self-advancing, not sure why it does that. So the ACOEM quarterly, the paper version is going away, but you'll still get the wonderful content virtually, and we're definitely looking for contributors for content. I think next then we have the OPPOD, that's Dr. Ishmael Nabil, that's sort of in charge of that, and great episodes. I do believe Amy had a recent episode, and Matt Ham had recent episodes that's worthwhile listening to. And this is just for me to remind you guys that the deadline for your scientific abstracts is still open until November 11th. So that's still there. And of course, AOHC 2025 is in Austin, Texas next year. Reset, Aspire, Sustain, a huge focus on sustainability, so you can expect that. It's gonna be the JW Marriott, and that's gonna be April 27th to 30th. So definitely mark your calendar. The one other slide I did not see up here is, of course, we just had our candidate forum on Monday, the 21st. So we canvassed for questions. So this year we had the largest number of candidates in the history of ACOM elections, and I fact checked that, so that's accurate. So a very engaging group, and you should definitely take a look at their candidate page. Very eloquently written statements, and some even have videos. And then, of course, the recording to the candidate forum is posted on the candidate page there on the ACOM website. So why don't I stop there? Yeah, I already mentioned that, and then I'll take any questions. I know Jeff has the hard question for me, but I'm gonna solve this question.
I'm the physician advisor for the nurse practitioner section, and I think there's going to be. I'm sorry. I think there's going to be a decent amount of exodus of the nurse practitioners, and I just think it offers us an opportunity to collaborate with the NPs that remain, and also try to make it make them feel more welcome. I think what happened at AOHC was bad on both sides, both people that were for and against the proposals. So I know the board is very fractured right now, and I hope that they can start working together for the good of ACOM. So I don't know if there's a question in there, but you put me on the spot, so I gave you a statement instead. How's that?
No, thank you, I appreciate that. So, unity implies there's responsibility and obligation on both sides. So I'm hoping that we can work together to move the college forward, the college and the specialty. At this point, somebody mentioned yesterday that I'm the peace president, so I will embrace that. So hopefully I'll be the president that brings peace, but it will require that we both work together, and it's gonna require sacrifice on both sides. Compromise is not gonna come without sacrifice on both sides, right? But right now, you're correct, we had a leadership session over the summer just for healing, just to ensure that people have the skills that they need to move the college forward, because there are difficult conversations to be had. Right now, I'm just in mode of just open, honest dialogue, healing and reconciliation, and that's what we're hoping to do, and then we have our next roundtable, and maybe clarify some of the strategic goals. You have your hand, Becky, go ahead.
I'll ask the question. So what is the status right now?
So right now, like I mentioned, we had a leadership, facilitated leadership session in the summer to bring the board together. That was in person, so we had a time of healing and reconciliation. Of course, the summer too, I have to try to get an agenda going for the year, because I still have to do some presidential activity. So it's getting the pipeline group together, having conversations with the environmental section, how we want to expand our agenda and so forth. So I have been busy, I have been actually working. And so right now we're just planning for the House of Delegate meetings coming up. We have the board meeting coming up. But we're hoping for the winter to have another, maybe facilitated session, maybe not. Maybe I'll be the facilitator, and have conversations about how to come up to clarify the strategic goals, and how to, by then we may have some input from the OIM professional board task force that we would refer to, how best collaborate with our, other colleagues in medicine, in occupational environmental medicine.
Status quo is what you're.
No, we're moving forward, but it's slow. It's not gonna happen overnight. You know how when things are fractured, relationships are fractured, it takes a while to heal that again. So it's not gonna be overnight.
We had before though, for right now are still in place, is that correct?
There's a process of, in fact, some of our volunteers, we had a couple that step forward to try to, to expand this healing process so that we can hear from everybody, hear everybody's input, and then, try to figure out a way and solution forward. So, yeah, we're working at that very diligently. You have my assurance on that. Thank you, guys.